The UK Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has resigned after he breached social distancing guidelines by kissing a colleague in his office. Mr Hancock informed the Prime Minister he was resigning in a letter, saying he'd let people down. The former Chancellor, Sajid Javid, has been confirmed as the new Health Secretary. In the United States, rescuers searching for survivors after an apartment building collapsed in Florida say their efforts are being hampered by fires which have broken out in the rubble. It's emerged there'd been warnings 3 years ago about the building's structural safety. 5 people are now known to have died, with almost 160 missing. Elsewhere in the US, 5 people have died in a hot air balloon accident in Albuquerque in southwestern US. The accident caused power outages in the area after the balloon came into contact with a power line. Police say the wind pushed the balloon into power lines, where it then caught fire.
People in parts of Japan are enjoying their first weekend since authorities lifted a coronavirus state of emergency. But even as crowds return to shopping districts, experts warn the capital may be facing another uptick. Tokyo is one of 9 prefectures that was released from the emergency declaration. One of its landmark sites, the Skytree building, has opened on a weekend for the first time since May. Visitors have to get temperature checks and sanitize their hands on the way in. The building operator has shortened the opening hours and limited the number of people allowed on the observation deck.
It's my first visit. I'm very happy they started opening on weekends again.
We took a train for the first time in a year and a half. We've been avoiding trips that whole time.
Some business owners across the capital have only recently started operating under eased restrictions, but authorities are already warning of a steady rise in cases. On Friday, they recorded 68 infections from the more contagious Delta variant, which was first identified in India. That's the highest figure for one day. Japan's health minister says the government may consider calling another state of emergency if necessary. On Saturday, Tokyo reported a total of more than 530 new cases. A symposium has been held on a mercury poisoning incident that occurred decades ago when wastewater was dumped into the environment by a chemical firm in southwestern Japan. A civic group that supports victims of Minamata disease organized the online event on Saturday. Venues in Tokyo and the city of Minamata in Kumamoto Prefecture were linked up for the conference. About 80 people took part. Eileen Miyoko Smith spoke at the event. She is the former wife of deceased photojournalist Eugene Smith. He came to Japan about 50 years ago. The photojournalist lived in the city and documented the damage caused by the contamination. The couple interviewed patients suffering from the disease. Eileen Smith spoke about the importance of sharing their experiences. She also showed photographs of the victims. Some of the patients and their supporters then spoke about the issues they continue to face. They said in May they urged the government and the prefecture to review the criteria used to recognize victims. They also said they urged the authorities to conduct health checks on residents as quickly as possible to uncover the full extent of the damage. Last month marked 65 years since the disease was officially confirmed. Chinese leaders are preparing to mark the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party next month. And as part of events to celebrate the occasion, workers are busy putting the final touches on a new museum. The building measures 150,000 square meters. Dignitaries and media have already gotten a sneak peek inside. The museum is packed with more than 6,000 exhibits. They include footage of Chairman Mao Zedong proclaiming the founding of the People's Republic of China. There's also a section dedicated to the achievements of President Xi Jinping.
The experience formed the basis of President Xi becoming the party's core.
Other exhibits feature the country's response to the coronavirus pandemic and China's space program. About a quarter of the entire museum is dedicated to the period since Xi became president. The anniversary is being given a lot of attention by the country's print and electronic media. The state-run Xinhua news agency says nearly 100 TV dramas are scheduled to be aired throughout the year. Beijing is not only trying to raise its profile domestically, it is also eager to step up its messaging to the world at a time when the United States and Europe are expressing growing concerns over the situation in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region and Hong Kong. In a meeting last month, President Xi said they must work to create an image of China as a country that is humble, trustworthy, loved, and respected. We spoke to a China expert about Xi's intentions.
The Communist Party is not a party of elected people. So it needs to make an effort to stress that China's growth is thanks to the party.
He says an issue at the party's National Congress next year will be whether to extend Xi's term. He says that makes the centenary all the more important as an opportunity to raise his profile. Rescue workers in Florida are combing through the rubble of a collapsed beachfront condo, hoping to find signs of life. 4 people have been confirmed dead, and about 160 are still missing.
We're on search and rescue. Full speed ahead on search and rescue. And you ask, why do we have hope? We have hope because that's what our search and rescue team tells us, that they have hope.
A team from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, has joined the operation in Miami. It remains unclear exactly how many people were inside the 12-story building when the disaster struck early on Thursday. Crowds gathered, including relatives of the missing.
It's a struggle. We are praying every minute. We are hopeful that she's there, alive, and we're going to see her soon.
We were waiting for any miracle. There's nothing that we can do. Just pray and just wait for a good, at least to find them.
The search is continuing around the clock, but the number of workers allowed on the site has been limited due to large amounts of unstable debris. Heavy rain and strong winds have made things even tougher for rescuers, while smoke from fires among the ruins has been another problem. Turning to Australia, where people in and around Sydney face 2 weeks of lockdown. That comes as authorities rush to control the spread of the coronavirus Delta variant, first confirmed in India.
Transmissibility is at least double what previous variants have been. So we do need to brace ourselves for potentially larger number of cases in the following days, and that's why it's so important we take action now.
The restrictions kicked in on Saturday. Residents are being asked to stay home except for essential outings. They're expected to wear masks in indoor venues and on public transport. Australia has largely managed to contain the coronavirus through strict border controls and by tracing infection routes. There had been no cases reported since early May, apart from some from overseas. But infections have increased over the past 10 days after the driver of a limousine bus servicing international flight crews tested positive for the Delta variant. Meanwhile, authorities in Taiwan have confirmed the first domestically transmitted cases of the Delta strain. That comes after 2 people who returned from Peru earlier this month were found to be infected with the variant. Those were the stories for this hour.